I need to feel your energy today from start to finish.
Come on, let's go.
Let's crank this thing up. It get real ferocious, I'm trying to tell you.
Turn me up all day.
From the locker room to the broadcast booth, breaking news and the truth behind every take from a real NFL insider and television analyst.
Now get ready for the NFL show where the conversation gets real and the fans get a voice. It's time for the Lake Lewis Jr. Show here on ESPN Radio.
And that's football.
Welcome, everyone, to the Lake Lewis Jr. Show. Appreciate you joining us as always. We've got a busy one for you today, and it's going to be a good one because we're going to be talking about the Washington Commanders' newest addition. And I don't mean new addition like in popcorn love and all that stuff. We're talking about Stefon Diggs, is now a Washington Commander. And if you are a Washington Commanders fan, you should feel really good about this because it enhances their wide receiver room quite a bit. And we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about all the dividends that it pays in, for this team. Does it make them one of those teams to be reckoned with in the NFC, let alone the NFC East, which is going to be a really tough division this year. So we'll talk about all those things. As always, if you want to chime in with me today on the show, all you have to do is give us a call here at ESPN Radio at 804-327-0888. You can also email me, and you can email that number, and we will read your emails on the line. And I already had like 4 or 5 when I came into the studio today, so we'll talk about that. If you're looking for, my super producer, my sidekick, he's actually in Baltimore today, doing some Ravens coverage. So you won't see Alan today, but he'll be back with me, if I'm not mistaken, on Tuesday when I'm back up at Commanders Park at the Big Bear AI Performance Center. Been there for the last, week and a half, giving you coverage from the Commanders training camp. And we had the day off today as far as being at the facility coverage. So I figured I'd get back down here to Richmond, get back in studio, and be able to talk about the big news of yesterday. So what does it mean for the Washington Commanders to have Steph Diggs? Is it he's 32 years old. We're not talking about the Steph Diggs from 2020 that had, like 1,535 yards and 127 touchdowns, led the league that year. Not 127 touchdowns. If he did that, my God, everybody would be lining up. 127 receptions that he had. So you're not getting that version of Steph. You're not. But you are getting a wily veteran that knows how to get open, that knows spacing, that knows how to break, and still has some game. Last year in New England, he had 85 catches, so if you look at those numbers, that would have led the Commanders. His like 1,100 yards would have led the Commanders. His 4 touchdowns that he had for New England last year would have been second for the Commanders. So, again, we're talking about a guy that was still getting it done at a high rate for a Super Bowl team last year. Remember, the Patriots went to the Super Bowl with a quarterback that was in his second year, in Drake May. So what can he do for Jaden Daniels, who just 2 years ago was the talk of the league? 2 years ago, Jaden Daniels, NFL Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, took the league by storm, led the Commanders to the NFC Championship game where they ultimately lost to the eventual Super Bowl champion, Philadelphia Eagles. Well, I got to tell you, I know Steph Diggs is excited to be in Washington. He's back home. He played his high school football at Good Counsel High School. He went to University of Maryland. And then, of course, after that, he played for the Vikings, where he was a 5th-round draft pick. And, I think halfway through his rookie campaign, that's when, he and Adam Thielen became a tandem. And everyone remembers that catch, from Kirk Cousins, the miracle catch in that playoff game against the Saints, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was the Saints. And everything else was history. Now, he moved on to Buffalo, played there a couple years. Then he went to the Texans and ultimately signed a 3-year deal with the Patriots. Didn't work out in New England. He was just there for 1 year, but they did get to the Super Bowl. So now he's in Washington. He's back home, and I'm sure he's excited to be back in his hometown, his own home stomping grounds. What does it do, though, for the Commanders? Does this, inch them up the board? Does this bring them up right now? Let me know your thoughts. Once again, you can chime in 804-327-0888, or you can email me. Also, want to let everyone know, too, about tomorrow before we get back into our topic matter, because it just, it slips me. It's been so much going on here, folks. It's just been so much I'm doing. But a lot of fans at practices, at the, training camp practices, were telling me that they're really looking forward to coming on the fan show that we do on Friday. So I want to let you know tomorrow, yes, I will be doing the fan show. I'll be doing it from up there because I have to go back because, we're back at practice tomorrow. So it's going to be kind of cool, to be able to do the fan show from the facility, with some of the fans from all over the world. The ones who can't be at practice, they'll be in that fan show. And a lot of people were asking me that. So just wanted to let everyone know once again how you can become part of that group. It's easy. All you have to do is email me, and I'm going to give you my personal email. I'm doing this on the air, if you can believe that. All you have to do is give me your email, and my email is Lake Lewis Jr., so Lake Lewis Jr. @gmail.com. It's real simple. Or you can email me at the show, which is the Lake Lewis Jr. Show @gmail.com. Either or, we'll get you the link and we'll get you all the pertinent information that you need. Myself and Alan will be chiming in on that one. So I think this signing for Washington basically rectifies a lot of things that we've been seeing so far in training camp. We've been seeing ups, we've been seeing downs, we've been seeing the highs and lows. We've been seeing really nice plays made by some young receivers that are hungry to prove that they belong. But then we follow up and see some of those same receivers drop some passes. There's been many times Jaden Daniels put the ball where it needs to be, and some receivers, although they could have been tough catches, we were always told when you get both hands on the football, you got to catch it, right? So some of these guys have dropped some. But I was going to say that over the past 2 to 3 practices, the offense has rebounded. The offense has started to come back and hit the defense in the mouth. And that's a good sign because the defense had just been surely dominating them for the longest time. So now they're giving them some juice. They're giving them something to work with. But then you follow that up sometimes with a couple drops here or there, or guys not being able to get open. And one thing that is apparent is that this football team with Durante Jones on defense, they're going to be very dynamic this year, and they're going to bring I think, a much improved pass rush from a line unit over the years. I will say again, when Jaden has had the time, to make the proper throws, and you see drops, those things get compounded. They really do. And it worries you a little bit because let's face it, outside of Terry McLaurin, there's a lot of unproven football players on the roster. There's some guys that have flashed over their NFL careers, like a Van Jefferson. He was the number 2 receiver for the Rams for a couple of years, but never really did anything to warrant possibly moving on and becoming a 1 somewhere else. Matter of fact, I think with the Steph Diggs signing, Van Jefferson might be the odd guy out. It's going to be tough. What are they going to do? How many receivers are they going to keep? We'll talk about that in a little bit here. But I think you see a guy like Van Jefferson hasn't really stood out in training camp. And it's early. It's early in training camp. We just finished day 7 yesterday. Okay. So when we get back there, it'll be day 9 because today does count as a day, even though media is not out there. Actually, no, it doesn't. I apologize because the players have the day off today as well. So tomorrow will be day 8 of training camp, and that's kind of early. However, you have joint practices coming up next week. That's when we're going to start to learn a lot about this football team. We're going to learn, are these receivers really what we think they are? Maybe there's going to be some grumblings about Brandon Ayuk, believe it or not. I'm sure there's some people out there that think that might still happen. I don't think so. However, if you continue to see inconsistencies at the, wide receiver room, then you may have to talk. So let's do this. The guys that are on the roster, in my opinion, like what does Steph Diggs signing with Washington for his 1-year contract, What does that do for the wide receiver room as far as the numbers, the number game? Well, I'm going to say this. I've already felt like they were going to keep 7 receivers, with Jalen Lane basically being the number 7 because he's such a specialist. He's very dynamic as a punt returner. And I think he could be one of the best at it, if he just continues to hone in on that craft. Talk with Brian Mitchell, a guy who knows something about returning punts and kickoffs. And Brian Mitchell's so high on him. Talk to Santana Moss, my guy. Those 2 guys are 2 of the best to ever do it. And they love Jalen Lane. They think he can be just as special as them. They told me that in Pittsburgh when we were up there for the draft, that they really feel like this kid is that dynamic. So there's no way Washington's moving on from him. And he's a draft pick of theirs. And he's shown improvement as far as his pass catching skills. He's shown vast improvement this training camp compared to what he was doing before, as a rookie last year. So he's on the roster. Make no mistake about it. So does that count as 7 or is that one of 6? To me, it's got to be one of 7. So let's talk about those other receivers that pretty much should be on the roster. We know Terry's a lock. We know Steph is a lock. We know Antonio Williams is a lock. That's 3 locks right there. And then you have Jalen Lane, who's your specialist. So that's 4. So what are we talking about here? Are we talking about Van Jefferson, De'Ami Brown, Treylon Burks, Luke McCaffrey, maybe the kid Jalen Bradley, who's showing a lot, had a really good day of practice yesterday. By the way, you can see my stand-up from yesterday's practice, my recap of day 7, and you'll see in some of the footage, some of the highlights that I shot, and it's up close and personal because Jalen almost ran me over on a couple of his deep ball catches. You can see what this kid is doing, and he's definitely got the attention of a lot of people. But when you go out and you sign a Steph Diggs, it makes it tough, folks. It does. It makes it tough for an undrafted player, no matter what he's doing, how good he's looking, to crack the roster. So with that said, I think that there's going to be a log jam between that 5 and 6 because me personally, I know what I saw yesterday and I know what I saw the day before, and that's by the gentleman with the name of Luke McCaffrey. Luke looked really good over the last 2 days. Even showed some chippiness and feistiness by, kind of squaring up with, Mikey Sanders still. Kind of caught everybody off guard. Like, oh, my goodness, that's Luke right there in Mikey's face holding his face mask and all that stuff. So, again, Luke's on the roster. I don't care what any of you guys say. I'm telling you, he's on the roster. So that's 4, okay, plus Jalen Lane. So now that's 5. So basically what this is going to come down to is if the team were to only keep 6 receivers, there'd be one more spot left. There'd be one more spot left, and it would be between Trey Burks, it would be between De'Ami Brown, and it would be between Van Jefferson. Personally, I think what they're going to do, like I said before, they're keeping 7. They're keeping 7, which means that Treylon Burks, which means that De'Ami Brown, they're on the roster. It means that Van Jefferson might be a guy to be put on the practice squad if, would he even clear waivers, because he did show a little bit, as far as mini camp. And, he showed speed. He showed top-end speed, great speed. Might be one of the fastest guys, if not the fastest guy, on the Commanders' practice fields right now. So what do you do with him, though? Is he the odd man out? I don't want to say who's the odd man out, verbatim, but in my opinion, I think he is the odd man out. He's going to have to do something, and I'm sure he's a little upset with Marcus Mariota because Marcus Mariota overthrew him on a deep route that Van Jefferson was wide open. He got beyond the defenses. He split the corners and the safety coming over and had a sheer deep ball. It was a short touchdown. It was just overthrown. So he did his job as far as taking the top off that defense. But nevertheless, when you don't get the play, people don't remember those things. I know the coaches saw what he did, and they remember that. But also, I haven't seen him make any catches in the practices. I haven't seen him hardly do anything compared to what we saw in minicamp. I was saying after minicamp, this guy's a lock to be on the roster because that's how much he was doing, but I haven't seen that over the first 7 days of training camp. Now, can that change? Of course it could. It could absolutely change. It could change to the point where when they have their joint practices, trust me when I tell you, the guys that are on the back end of the receiver room, they're going to get a lot of work. They're going to get a lot of looks. They're going to get a lot of opportunities. And that's where you have to shine. That's where you have to show out. You've got to prove what you're doing. So the wide receiver room with Steph Diggs has drastically changed overnight because you have a sheer number 2 guy now. You have a sheer number 2. Hell, if this was a couple years back, you'd be talking about, you know, is Terry the number 2? Is Terry 1A, 1B? Is Steph 1A, 1B? That's how good this tandem, you know, would have been a couple years back as far as elite. Right now, they're very good. Don't get me wrong. Terry's elite, and I think Steph Diggs is still, Terry's elite. Steph Diggs is very good. So they've got a very good room. If you look at the law of averages, that elite comes down to very good. That's how they meet. So they've got a very good 1 and 2 tandem, and I really think the kid Antonio Williams can benefit the most. I know people say Terry's going to benefit the most from Steph Diggs, but I think Antonio Williams actually is going to benefit the most. And the reason why I say that is because his game is very similar to Steph Diggs, especially the Steph Diggs that was coming out of Maryland, as far as a guy that could run underneath, had, great cutting ability, wiggle room to get open, spacing, just knowing all those nuances. And Antonio Williams has that. Steph Diggs, smooth in his route running. Antonio Williams has all of those things as well. So Antonio Williams can look at a guy like Steph and learn his craft even more from a guy like Steph Diggs. And I know at this point in his career, Steph Diggs and Terry McLaurin, for that matter, Terry McLaurin's been working with all these young guys. After every practice, you see them together, and he's helping them during practice, taking on that sheer leadership role of, hey, I know who I am, I know what I am, and I can help your game, and that's what he's done. Well, I expect the same thing from Steph Diggs, and I'm sure Adam Peters, when he talked to him, he got that out of him. So a lot of variables here, my friends, a lot of good things that I think come with this room. That elephant in the room now, though, is, are they done? Are they done? Are they okay with what they have and that's it? Or are they going to go out and try to do something else? And you know what I'm talking about. Is Brandon Ayuk still in the fold somehow, some way? I doubt it. I think him talking, kind of slick towards Jaden and his moms may have cost him an opportunity. Interesting to see as we're on the air now. It's interesting to see if he does say something about Washington signing Steph Diggs. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. So listen, my friends, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to still talk about this big signing, but we're going to take it to the level of, where does this put Washington in the NFC race now? Where does this put them overall in the league? Because a lot of pundits out there, a lot of my colleagues have this team not being that good. I totally disagree with them. I think that they're a playoff football team, and I think that if they're number 5, their quarterback can stay healthy all season, I think they're going to be a dangerous football team that has much bigger aspirations. We'll break all that down when we come back. You're listening to the Lake Lewis Jr. Show right here on ESPN Radio. Welcome back, everyone, to the Lake Lewis Jr. Show right here on ESPN Radio and also on HD Radio. If you're in the Richmond market, you can hear this on 106.1 FM, and then also you can hear it on 103.7 FM, and that's the HD channel. So we wanted to get into our emails. I've been getting emails during the show, and I apologize to all of you out there who, some of you have written me back and said, man, you never got into my email. Well, sometimes from a time standpoint, we don't have a whole lot of time to really delve into it, but I have been plugging it, and again, you can email me very easily. You can email me at lakelewisjr@gmail.com. You can email the show at 804-327-0888. Yes, you can email that number. And I did have a couple of emails already for today that I'm going to make a point to get to right now as we speak. So we have Greg from Owensboro, Kentucky. Okay. All right. Appreciate that, Greg. And Greg says, Lake, I'm a big fan of yours and the team. As you know, we met at practice the other day. I think I do remember you, my friend. Okay. All right. Appreciate that. Greg says, how do you envision David Blau using Steph Diggs in the offense? Where he says Stefon Diggs in the offense. How does he complement Terry? That's a good question. That's a really good question. I know David Blau is looking for guys that can create separation, for one. And I know that sounds cliche, like every receiver coach wants that or every coordinator wants that. But I think specifically in this offense, because if you go back and you look at what they're going to be doing, it's going to be very similar to what Detroit does, what the Lions run. And we know about Amon St. Brown and what he does underneath, the toughness, tenacity that he plays with. But he's really good at spacing. He's really good at, finding creases in the defense, getting in front of the linebackers and sometimes getting beyond the linebackers in that middle box portion of the field. Just look at it like this. If you're running 12 personnel, if you're running 13 personnel and you have, a bunch of tight ends on the field, your receiver might be on an island with someone. Your receiver may be a guy that they can bring in motion and still underneath do some things. So I think they're looking for someone that knows how to do those things outside of Terry. Terry definitely excels at that part of his game. And Antonio Williams was really good at that at Clemson. So I think to get back to, what Paul was saying here as far as how do they envision David Blau using Steph, I do. I think that Stefon Diggs now is going to be doing a lot of the Amon St. Brown things. I don't think you're going to be seeing him running deep routes. That's not at this portion of his career, coming off that knee injury from a couple years back. He's back. He's healthy. He looks great. You look at all his highlights and all his footage of him working out. He's back. He looks great. But I don't think they're going to be asking him to be that guy to take the top off the defense. They're going to have him be an intermediate demon, just working the middle of the field, the parameters to the sidelines. He's going to be able to do all of the above. He's going to be a guy that can mix it up. And that, to me, goes to your next part, Greg, as far as how does that complement Terry? Well, it complements Terry quite a bit because just Steph Diggs being on the field has earned respect from defensive coordinators, has earned respect from, guys on the other side of the ball going to be going up against him. So you can't keep all eyes on Terry now. You can't just gang up on Terry, keep a safety over top of Terry where you have basically him being blanketed on one side of the field and who else is going to step up today. Well, you're no longer going to have that because Steph Diggs will get open on you for sure. He proved that last year, 85 catches, like I said earlier. So I don't look at him or envision him as, somebody told me yesterday, oh, he's washed. No, not at all. My only concern with Steph, and I'm going to say it, my only concern was, was there any outside noise that could come with him if the Washington Commanders were to have signed him? Well, everyone in New England, a media person I know up there, a player that I'm really good friends with that plays for them, used to play for the Commanders, and I have no problem saying that. Morgan Moses, that's my guy. People have said to me that Steph Diggs is legit locker room guy, and he fits the culture of what Washington wants. And I know they vetted all of that stuff, and they are not bringing anyone into this locker room that can disrupt it. They're only bringing people into the locker room in Washington who can enhance it. So that portion of him is coming to Washington to help enhance it. He's a leader. They loved him in New England. I'm still curious as to why he's not back there, though. Because let's not stray here, but just face it. Steph Diggs and A.J. Brown? Ooh-wee. That could have been something, too. But you know what? It's okay. Because Steph Diggs and Terry McLaurin, ooh-wee. I like that as well. I like that even more because I cover that. So I think Terry and Steph are going to really complement each other. They're not going to be in the way of each other because of the type of games that they play. Terry is I always say Terry is a junkyard dog. He's one of those guys that does all the dirty work, all the nuances that he does to get open, to scrape and fight for everything he gets. That's who he is. He's a dog. He really is. Steph, on the other hand, is more of the technician out on the field. His skill set of running crisp routes, great hands. I mean, he catches everything with his hands. those are the type of things that I think both those guys will complement each other on, and both of them are going to feed into Antonio Williams, like I said earlier. I think it really helps their games. I think it helps their games tremendously. So, Greg, I appreciate that email. Let's keep it going here. I want to get a couple more in here in this segment. We have Paul from Mechanicsville, Virginia. Appreciate you, Paul. Mechanicsville is right here outside of the Richmond area. So Paul says, great show, Lake. Appreciate that. He says, do you think Ayuk could actually still be in play? Maybe Adam told him to stay calm and quiet. Well, I'll say this, Paul. Again, appreciate that email. I'm not going to say he can't be in play. Ayuk, we're talking about. I'm not going to say he's not in play, like totally out. But I'm kind of putting it this way. He's closer to this side of the fence that says, hell no, he's not going to be in Washington, than this side over here that says, hell yes, he'll be in Washington. Okay, he's more over here. And, so the people who are watching this on YouTube, you see my hands. You see how close they are to the other side of the fence. So I don't think it's going to happen. I think bringing in Diggs is enough for them to kind of secure the room a little bit and let some of these other younger guys continue to grow and develop, knowing that you have two Pro Bowl, receivers that can help them along the way. I think that's kind of the thinking. I'm not the GM, though. Adam's my dude, but I can't tell you his way of thinking on this. I do know if drops happen or continuously happen over the next 2 weeks leading into, preseason, and, we got a preseason game next week on Friday, just so you know, the Dolphins, we have the joint practice on Wednesday, and then 2 days later it's the first preseason game. So if these drops happen continuously, then maybe you start looking at some other veteran guys that are out there. If not Brandon Ayuk, you still have, some other guys. Keenan Allen is out there. Deebo Samuel now went back to San Francisco. That was a good look for them to bring him back. He's familiar with everything they do, so he should hit the ground running because they needed receivers. But there's other receivers that are still going to be out there that, possibly you can look at, not just Brandon Ayuk, if they need to go the route of getting more help in that wide receiver room. As far as maybe Adam told him to stay calm and quiet, I don't think Adam told him anything because Adam can't tell him anything because he's still under contract with the 49ers. And if Adam were to have told him that in any way, shape, or form, whether it be written, text, or audio, or video, or whatever, that's called tampering, and the Commanders would be in big trouble if that were to happen. So no way Adam Peters did that. I think maybe some other people may have told him that if there's any kind of hope that he still can resurrect things with the Commanders, because it looks like now that he's buried and dead with that. So we'll see how that plays out. So appreciate that, Paul. All right, one more. We'll get one more in, and then we'll keep it going. So we have Adrian from Richmond. All right, appreciate that, Adrian. Adrian says, man, Lake, you're the GOAT. I appreciate that. I'm going to get to the rest of this. But whenever I hear stuff like that, man, that's all love. I greatly appreciate that kind of compliment. All right, that means a lot. So he says, man, Lake, you're the GOAT. I love your storytelling skills from practice. I still think the team needs to do more. A pair of 30-plus receivers can't be expected to carry the load all season. That's fair. Some people are going to say that. Terry's 31, will be 31 soon. I think in the first week of the season or whatever, he'll be 31. And Stefon Diggs is 32. But they still have game. Terry, listen, man. Terry looks like he can play from what I've been seeing the last, week and a half of camp. I'm telling you right now, Terry looks like he can go for another 4 or 5 years. And I'm not exaggerating. He looks awesome. He looks great. He's in great shape. He's catching everything. He's, like I said, junkyard dog. He's doing all the dirty work and still lighting people up. So I don't look at that age and say, oh, man, Terry's 31. When is the fall off coming? I don't look at things that way. If anything, I know we're talking about a different sport, but with LeBron, look at what LeBron's doing. 42, it'd be 43 this year in the NBA. And now we're talking about because he went to a team that didn't go too far in the playoffs, okay? He went to a team that with that same group coming back and Jaylen Brown, I'm not silly here. I understand that's a big coup as well. We're talking about an all-NBA player joining LeBron and going to Philadelphia. But let's face it, waiting on LeBron has kind of put Philly over the top in a lot of people's minds. He's 42, 40, going on 43 years old. So I don't see anything to make me think that Terry or Steph Diggs can't continue to light corners up. I still think they will. And I still think that that's why the Commanders are now a team that we're going to have to start talking about here. So for all these emails, and there's a couple more in there, I'm not sure if I can get to them today, my friends. I promise you the next show we'll get back to you, and you can continue to write me. You can try to come on the show tomorrow, as opposed to writing the emails. Come on that fan show, and that's the show I keep talking about that we do on Fridays with fans literally from all over the globe joining us. We have a regular, my good friend Oscar, from Istanbul, Turkey, joins us every week. He'll be on there tomorrow. We got my friends Josh and Brad. Josh is in Minnesota. Brad is in Detroit. We got Rev and Shauno out in California. Miss Benet is out in California. Lady E, Erica Lynn, who's doing some great stuff on YouTube. She's here in Richmond. She comes on. I mean, it's so many folks, Ellison, Brad Savage, I'm shouting out everybody. We got Rich from Alaska joins us. I'm telling you, Miss Sheila from DC joins us. Miss Jen up in Potomac, Maryland joins us. If I forgot you, it's just because I'm pressed for time here, but that's what I'm saying. It's so many people that come on this fan show, and we have a good one. Mr. Gerard and his son come on. Shauno Jr. comes on now with Shauno out in Fresno. So we've got a lot of folks that join us on this show, and I am cordially inviting you right now to make sure you write this down. If you're in your car right now, make sure you get home safely first. But it's easy, folks. All you got to do is email me at LakeLewisJr@gmail.com or the Lake Lewis Jr. Show at gmail.com, and we'll get you that link. It's via Zoom. So the fans who come on, they stage their backdrops and they have fun with it. And we have a game that we do each week where we pair you up with teams. So again, we have fun with that. So make sure you do that. So we're going to take a break. And when we come back for our final segment, it'll be a lengthy one, but we're going to talk about what does this do for the Washington Commanders overall? Where are they now as far as the NFC East? Where are they now as far as the NFC? And where are they now as far as the NFL as a whole? Are they closer to getting back to that NFC Championship game that they were in just 2 seasons ago? Or are they still years away? Or are they still, another piece or two away from getting back there? We'll talk about all of that when we come back right here on the Lake Lewis Jr. Show. Welcome back, everyone. Lake Lewis Jr. Show here on ESPN Radio, and this is our final segment of the day, and it's going to be a lengthy one, folks. And I want to talk about the Commanders from the standpoint of where are they right now as far as their place in the league, because a lot of my colleagues, not just nationally, but even a couple locally, aren't sure if this team's going to be good. A couple of them told me they don't think they're going to be good at all. I totally disagree with that. That whole analogy there to me is off, and it's off base, it's off-putting. It doesn't make sense to me. And I'm not saying that because I cover this team and, I have some guys on the team I consider friends and family. No. Listen, I got to be a professional before it all. And that's how I became close with a lot of people in the building, by being a professional first. But there's no way that you can convince me from what I've been seeing with my eyes over the past a week and a half. This football team looks like they're ready to take off. They look like they're ready to prove a lot of people wrong. And I'm going to tell you why. It starts on the other side of the ball for once. Everyone talks about Jaden and Jaden staying healthy. I just said it when the show started today. If Jaden Daniels stays healthy for 17, they're going to be in the thick of this thing. And I truly believe that. But Jaden's got some weapons at his disposal that sometimes he won't even have to throw the football to. Sometimes he can just sit on the sidelines and watch those weapons at his disposal because they're on his team, but they're on the other side of the ball. And I'm talking about Durante Jones' defense. I've been covering this sport for 20 years, okay? 20 years as league insider, TV analyst, insider for CBS 6 here in Richmond, for, ABC in DC. And now, having this platform back where I started, because I started at ESPN in Florida for a long time ago, okay? To have these platforms and have these things come back, tenfold for me allows me to tell you my stories. It allows for me to tell you the stuff that I've seen over the years and what I haven't seen over the years, all right? You know what I haven't seen over the years? I haven't seen a defense like what I'm seeing right now in Washington. I saw it in Baltimore, and what did they do that year? They went and won the Super Bowl. I saw it. I saw it in New York. What did they do? They went on and won the Super Bowl. I know what I'm seeing, and I'm telling you, this defense has a chance to be damn good, and I mean that sincerely. What I have been seeing in these practices is speed. They haven't had this kind of speed ever, as far as me covering them, ever. I don't want to say, go back to 2012, 2011. No. Never have I seen this, okay? They have speed. They have athleticism. They have youth for a change, okay? They got a freak in the middle of the field, number 52, Sonny Styles, that I was just talking to a colleague yesterday on the practice field, and we were just in astonishment, just like, look at this kid, man. And he hasn't even filled out yet. I mean, he's got a nice size on him already. He's a unicorn. But I'm telling you, give him 2-3 years in a weight room, I don't even know if he's going to be able to play middle linebacker after that, because he's naturally going to keep filling out. He looks like a defensive end playing middle linebacker, and he's running and he's thumping. You heard Javon Kinlaw himself say it. Javon Kinlaw is one of the largest men you ever meet in your life. Might be the largest commander, maybe with the exception of Sam Cosmi, because Sam Cosmi to me is the Undertaker. As Sam Cosmi out of his own mouth said to us the other day, if he wasn't playing football, he'd probably be in jail. Just because he's just a big, large dude, man, you don't want to mess with. Javon Kinlaw is just like that. Javon Kinlaw, one leg is most people's whole circumference of their body. I kid you not. These guys are talking about Sonny Styles, and they're talking about him and how fast he is and how volatile he's getting into the middle of the defense. I'm telling you, Washington's defense has some special pieces brewing here. It really does. And it starts with their coordinator, Durante Jones. Mild-mannered out there. And when I say that, he's not screaming for no reason. He's not just wasting energy. He's thinking. He's writing down stuff. He's in the middle of things. He's pulling guys off the field to tell them what they did wrong. Not admonishing them, but coaching them and communicating with them. Something I haven't seen. And I'm not blowing smoke here. I know sometimes we can get ahead of ourselves in media to say we see nothing but good. And then there's my colleagues who see nothing but bad. I'm kind of like more on the good side. I'll tell you when it's bad. Don't get me wrong, but I kind of try to keep it positive. There's nothing for me to sugarcoat here about Durante Jones. Nothing at all. He gets it. He's an effective communicator. Dan Quinn said that all the way back when they introduced him as their new defensive coordinator. What stood out to Dan Quinn was his communication skills. Jeremy Reeves, several guys told me, this guy's the best defensive coach I've ever had already. They haven't even played a game yet. But yet these guys feel like they're being put in the best positions possible. Speaking of that, Jeremy Reeves look like he's going to get a start nod, if you ask me. That's what I'm seeing. He's coming and taking somebody's spot at safety. Him and Nick Cross will be their starting corners, starting safeties, in my opinion, this year. We'll talk about that on another day because we're trying to get to this team and where they are as far as their overall rankings. I think with this defense, with the fact that you go back to 2024 and remember this defense was what? I think they finished 13th overall in the NFL as far as defense. And that's surprising because I didn't think they were one of the 13th best defenses. I just didn't. They were opportunistic. They did get some turnovers, especially in the playoff run. Remember Detroit, remember Tampa. They caused some turnovers that were critical in those games, and it helped them propel themselves to go to that NFC Championship game. But at no point did I ever really feel like an offensive coordinator stayed up all night just fearing having to go up against that defense. There's no disrespect to those guys, but that's a fact. I think this year, There's going to be some offensive coordinators that are going to stay up late. Trust me when I tell you. They're going to stay up late because the wrinkles that Durante Jones' defense throws at you is nothing like I've ever seen before. I saw it maybe once in my career over 20 years. I saw it last year in Minnesota. And you remember the outcome of that game? 31-0. Vikings destroyed Washington, made it miserable for all of us. And then we had to go out and stand in sub-zero temperatures and wait for an Uber to get us back to the airport. I'm like, it was terrible, okay? Durante Jones was on that staff. Durante Jones was helping Brian Flores create that defense that caused hellified havoc on Washington that whole game, okay? They're getting that every day in practice now. Jaden Daniels in that offense, Terry McLaurin, now Steph Diggs, Antonio Williams, Bill Krosky-Merritt, Rashard White, the offensive line, Laramie Tunsil, Josh Connerly Jr., Sam Cosmi, Brandon Coleman, Chris Paul, Nick Allegretti when he comes back. They're getting all of that every day in practice, okay? That's going to make the offense better. That's going to make them much better to have to go up against that kind of prolific mindset of a defense every day. And it's going to make the defense better, too, because they're going up against a dynamic skill set of a quarterback in Jaden Daniels. It's going to help everybody. And that's why I'm saying to you, to get into these rankings of where this team is, I'm a little irritated, to be honest with you. I feel like they slighted Washington a lot in the rankings. They slotted them as far as their player rankings. It's bad. Somebody told me that they had Jaden Daniels at like a 79 on Madden, and I was like, there's no way that happened. I got to look that one up. You know, I don't play Madden anymore. I was a big 2K football fan back in the day. So, you know, that's just me. That's just me. I know the league and the Madden, so I got to be careful what I say. But where do I have this team? Okay. I think this football team right now, no worse, is in the middle of the pack. No worse. There's 32 teams in the league. At no worse are they the 16th best team. I'm not going to say worst team. 16th best team. They're no worse. They're at that line right there. Okay? That's not the number I'm putting them at. I'm telling you where I think they're no worse than. They're no worse than 16. Where do I have them? Going out and getting Steph Diggs changes a lot. It absolutely does. And now that I know headspace is right, the team's headspace is right, it's a perfect match. I think I have Washington like around 11 right now, but has the chance to ascend. I know what I see with this defense, and I know what I know about Jaden. And I know he's kept some receipts from people who disrespected him and who think that he's washed and, you know, wasn't any good. All that, 2024 was a fluke. It was just perfect timing, perfect storm. They rode the wave of. No. What won the Super Bowl last year, my friends? I'm going to keep asking that question. What won the Super Bowl last year? The Seattle Seahawks won the Super Bowl with a quarterback who had a lot of question marks. Although he was just coming off a 14-win season, had an opportunity to have the Vikings be a number one seed. They lost that final regular season game to Detroit, where the winner of that was kind of like winner takes all as far as seedings. They lost. They ended up being a 5 seed and lost to the Rams in L.A. That's Minnesota with Sam Darnold. And Detroit was the number one seed. Okay. Washington beat Detroit in the playoffs too, by the way. I just want to throw that out there to people. Okay. However, Seattle had a defense. I mean, a real strong defense. Mike McDonald's defense was at it last year. They were on something. They were on one, and they were coming at people. They had a running game. Kenneth Walker. Look at what he did in the Super Bowl. Basically, they just said, you know what, New England, we don't need to do anything else. Just maul you on defense because you can't move the ball on us, and we're going to run the football down your throat. And they did exactly that with Kenneth Walker. They won the Super Bowl. Sam Darnold got that question mark knocked off his back that he is now a Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl MVP. That's what he brings to the table. And I think Kenneth Walker won the MVP. But anyway, my point being, run the football, play great defense, and have your quarterback do what he does. That looks like that could be a blueprint in Washington because I think Bill Krosky-Merritt's getting ready to have a big-time year. I know these running backs now, thank God, are getting paid again. Shout out to Bijan Robinson getting paid, now the highest paid back in the league. Until Jahmyr Gibbs gets his money. His is coming too, so shout out to him because they're getting ready to get paid. And then shout out to a fellow Penn Stater. You thought we were going to go the whole show without me mentioning Penn State? Come on, man. We are. That's what we do. Saquon started this. Saquon got everybody to realize you need running backs because who won the Super Bowl the year before? Not Seattle. It was the Philadelphia Eagles. And how'd they do it? They mauled you on defense and they ran the football. And their quarterback did what he needed to do when he needed to do it. That's the blueprint now, folks. It's not high-flying 50 points a game. That's not it. It's play defense, run the football, and have your quarterback take his shots and be opportunistic when needed. That's what they're going to do here in Washington. And that's why I think some people are missing. They're missing the boat here. They've missed it. The boat's already out in the water sailing away from you if you think that Washington was going to be bad. If you thought they were going to be tragic, that's a tragic way of thinking. I think Washington's going to be a pretty good football team this year. I think they are a playoff caliber football team. And if this defense can step up and be what I think it's going to be, I think they're a contender in the NFC. I truly believe that. Now, obviously, Seattle, the Rams, you could even maybe want to throw the 49ers in there, although there's some question marks with the 49ers. Defensively, they've got some question marks, and they've got question marks at the receiver spot on that team. So they're not just, in the clear themselves, but I think from a sheer talent standpoint, I think the Rams and Seattle, those are the two best teams right now on paper, as far as what we know that they've done. That was the NFC Championship game, ironically, last year. Those are the two best teams. But I think after that, it's open for a lot of teams. I think the Eagles are going to rebound. I think they're better than some people are talking about. The Cowboys have all kinds of talent, and now they've got talent on the other side of the ball on their defense as well. The Giants should be an improved football team. You go to the NFC North, everyone talking about Caleb and the Bears and Green Bay and Jordan Love. Don't sleep on Minnesota. I know that sounds crazy. Don't sleep on Kyler Murray and company. I think that they might have something surprise for people in Minnesota. Detroit. Don't sleep on Detroit. They're looking for a bounce back year after missing the playoffs. You look at the NFC South. That's open for anybody in that division to win it. Tampa's kind of been the kingpin of that, but New Orleans feels like they've got a shot to step it up. Atlanta, I'm not sure. Bijan got his money, but they have to figure out the quarterback spot because Michael Penix always hurt. Right now it looks like Tua Tagovailoa is going to get that job. Two lefty quarterbacks. That's near and dear to my heart because I'm left-handed. But with that said, I don't know about them. So there's some question marks there. But I think the Panthers are a team. Do not sleep on them. I think they can take another step. They were a playoff team last year, and they gave the Rams fits in that game down in Carolina and Charlotte. So I do think that they can take another step, and I'm actually predicting them to win their division again. I think they win the NFC South again this year. So Washington, NFC, where are they? They're right there. After the Rams, after Seattle, I wouldn't put anybody clearly over them. I think they have a shot to be right there as well with all those teams, okay? As far as the NFL, again, I think they're in the upper half of the league. As far as right now, before a game is played, for me, I have them a little higher. I have them at like the second tier best teams. And the second tier to me starts after if there's 32 teams in there and you do it quarters and you do it by eights. Washington's right there in the second tier, at the top of that second tier at 11 for me. So that means that they're closer to getting into that first tier if they start their season off the way we think they could. They're going to have a tough one. Don't get me wrong, going to Dallas, going to Philadelphia, coming home to play against the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks, who we just talked about, and then travel overseas to London. I'm looking forward to that game, y'all. I really am. I can't wait for that to get over to London. But, yeah, they're going to have a tough first four games through travel and through opponent, through quality of opponent. The Colts aren't a team to be slept on either. So these are going to be four really outstanding teams, four good games. It's going to have playoff ramifications in their first quarter of the season. So if they can start off hot, then maybe these things I'm saying might hold true. If they don't, maybe I've been wrong. Maybe my eyes are deceiving me. I believe in myself. I believe in my eyes, and I believe this football team's going to be pretty good. You know what else is pretty good? You out there. I appreciate everybody out there. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this on ESPN Radio, greatly appreciate you. Greatly appreciate the emails. And I see here we had 7 more emails that I didn't even get to. I promise you I'm going to make it a point to get to those early and often in the show. So, my friends, remember, you can join me tomorrow on the Fan Show. I appreciate it if you could. You'll have a lot of fun with everyone on there. They're very welcoming. It's a community we've put together of fans that I just let them do their things and they have fun with it, but they are very much embracing everyone that comes in. They consider themselves a family of NFL fans that have a platform where they don't get yelled at and they're not being called stupid if they don't agree. That's what I'm trying to put together there, a safe haven for you as a fan to feel like you can come in and support your team and disagree to disagree, agree to disagree without being ripped apart, so that's our platform. So appreciate you, my good friends out there. Make sure you get home safely if you're in your car. Get home to your family and friends. You know my saying, leave everyone else alone. Have a great night. I appreciate you.